Grand Rising, Divine Rise, gods and goddesses, on this beautiful day of Jupiter, prosperity, the day of 10, the day of personal growth. The reason that this day is the day of Jupiter, little fun fact, or the day of 10 is because 10 is the most malleable of the metals. 10 is the most malleable of metals. I think I've said that last week. 10 is the most malleable of metals. So when we think about our prosperity, when we think about our growth, when we think about our abundance, when we think about our what we would call luck, when we think about these aspects, we think about the perspective into our growth. Remember, over the last couple of days I've been talking about, we've been getting into the first step is the admittance or admitting. The second step is the acceptance. But the acceptance is based on understanding the of and not the apart. When it comes to the perspective of others, we feel like if we accept their perspective, if we accept others' perspective, we must accept and partake of what they do within that space. This changes our perception and how only thing you can do with your perception is change how you react. Someone's perception of you, how they're projecting themselves to you, how they're projecting on you based on the things that they know about themselves, the things that they haven't dealt with, the healed aspects, the trauma aspects, these spaces within that. The only thing that you can do within that space is change how you react based on the acceptance of their perspective for understanding. It doesn't mean that I have to. There's things that I do that others' whole perception of me has changed throughout my growth and me coming into myself from my growing. There's things that I've done that their perception of me has changed due to how they view the things that I've done. They feel like they cannot accept me, and that's cool. They feel like they cannot accept me. They cannot feed from me. They can't sit at the table that I sit at, which is okay. It's fine. It's dandy. That allows me to have set my boundaries. Others' perspectives, their perception of what they project, these are things that are going to help you grow and set your new boundaries. Just because an individual, that's like, take for example, I was looking at a Dr. Umar Johnson video the other day on YouTube. The Spirit led me to a Dr. Umar Johnson video. He said some shit that made sense. He said that black people are the only people that feel like they need to have a pro something. His perspective outside of what he projected, I'm not thinking about how he's projecting it. I'm not thinking about what he's trying to get to. I don't care about the school. I don't care about nothing else in that personal aspect. But if I get some information that makes me think, that makes me want to go research some shit, that means it's good information. Now, my exit strategy, I didn't have to plan an exit strategy because then he started talking about having beef with somebody and was like, it's my time to eject. This is when you're understanding to set your boundaries and set your new boundaries and your parameters. I can accept what you're saying. I can listen to what you're saying. I can be open to what you're saying. I can take that information in. I can use it, decide if I want to use it or not, whatever it may be. That means I can go into that space and gather something from it. But that does not mean that I have to partake of the things that are there at that table. This helps you with your urges and your addictions. A lot of us don't like going into spaces because it feeds. A lot of us do not like go. A lot of us are unconscious of going into certain spaces because it feeds our urges and it feeds our addictions or our vices. So you won't go somewhere, or you'll go somewhere because it's feeding one of your vices. It's feeding that aspect of an addiction. It's feeding that aspect of an urge that you need to have fulfilled. It's not good. It's just based on where you're at in your space. That guilt that comes, like the aspect of you feeling guilty for not saying something or making your boundary, or your need for an escape or whatever drama is going to come into that space. Whatever it may be, you don't have to partake. That's like, for example, for me, my homies loved going to the strip club. That was their thing. That was what we did back in the day. When I would go to the strip club, and why their perception of going to the strip club and my perception of going to the strip club were two different perceptions. The way they projected themselves in going to the strip club and me going to the strip club was two different things. That gave me a new perspective on, I didn't have to do what they were doing to go to the same space. That allowed me to keep my frequency intact. So I would go to the space. I've had some of the most intelligent conversations with strippers that I've ever had. Like in some strip clubs, they got like the little back spot in the back where like it's like a deck where they go sit in between their dances or whatever. That's where I would go. Because one of my friends knew the stripper or whatever. And like I would sit back there, I would have like some of them, I'd be psychoanalyzing, talking to them about their school, doing stuff with them, like whatever it was, having a bomb ass time. Like they bring me drinks and we have conversation. I don't spend a dime in the strip club because they get free drinks, and so they brought me their free drinks, and we're sitting out there having a intellectual conversation. Meanwhile, my friends, they're like, yo, the strippers is tripping. They didn't want to go with me to have this party, or they're trying to spend an exceeding amount of money, an exceeding amount to stake their value to get something based on their projection. So they never truly grow out of that space. Because this comes into the aspect of, if you go to the strip club, and let's say you go to the strip club every day of the week and every Friday, there's somebody in there that's going to pop a pill, smoke, and they're going to let you run a train on them at the hotel. Or whatever in bed, like at a hotel room or whatever. They don't let you Players Club them. That becomes your new perception. That becomes your perception. That becomes your perspective. You're always going to see everything within that space, and you'll only allow yourself to be within that space based on that perception, based on that perspective, because that's how you've always viewed it. So anything that can come out of that fundamentally inside of your mind, this is what starts to change when you're inside of that space. Because when I went to that space, I got an entirely different out. I got an entirely different aspect when I got from that space than what others got from when they were doing it. One second. What are you looking for? Up there. I see you at 10 o'clock. Coming back into that perspective of yourself, this is what you're changing. This is what you're learning to in that aspect of your balance. A lot of us cannot balance. A lot of us have a problem in balancing because we view how we project things onto others, how we create that, that's based into that positive and negative space. So if I value everything as positive, or I want to look at everything through a positive light, then anything that's outside of the positive scape that can actually serve a purpose for me in setting my boundaries, changing my perspective, helping me grow, I'm not going to look at, because I'm looking at everything through being good. But if I'm looking through everything through the negative aspect, then if I'm looking at everything through a negative aspect, anything that can be positive that can serve me will follow into that same line. So I never truly grow because I never accept the challenge. This is what happens when most of us look at when we get into a relationship and how we created the bounds of the creation. This is when we're to think about the creation of the relationship that we're now in. Why are you in that relationship? What does that relationship mean to you? What are you wanting to receive from that relationship? Everything that you're receiving from something should already be is only based in a conduit of what you already are. Anything outside of this makes it damn near impossible, because that's setting those exceeding values into something else to be something that I needed to be. So I'll use that for the example. For myself, I desire or want nothing. I need not, want not. I need not, want not. That's me. I need for nothing and want for nothing. Everything that I require, I am in alignment based on the desire for it. So I'm now open to the channels that come to me based in that thought process. My perception, I'm projecting through that mindset of becoming more and more balanced. So I can say one eye sees positive, the eye of Horus sees positive, the eye of Thoth sees negative. I can use that as an aspect. My vision is clearly seeing the entire spectrum. So I'm not looking at things to connect to feed an urge. This becomes another aspect when we're inside of that space. We try to find things to feed that urge. We're feeding an urge. We're feeding a vice. I need this and I need this and I need this and I need this. You'll notice that for some individuals that get stuck within a certain space, based on how we've been talking about existing or living in that now point, you're going to notice that a lot of individuals, when it comes to a certain point, the only reason that they're doing something that's a catalyst of change, that's inevitable. I want to change my way I eat. I want to change the way I do this. I want to change the way I do this. It's based on staying within that space. If I get rid of the weight, I can stay within this space. So it's not a discipline to help you grow. It's only a discipline to change your perception of how you're projecting yourself. This is why when most people start to lose weight, this is something to think about. When most people lose weight, they still feel fat. When people are getting off of drugs, they're always going to be in the mindset of the default. Their default, or where they're going to project from, is always existing within that thought process. I'm an alcoholic. I'm on drugs. I'm an alcoholic. I'm a crackhead. I'm a heroin addict. I'm addicted to sex. All of these addictions. All these addictions are based on the projecting from a space that they feel that, based on their perspective, they're doing everything within their perspective not to deal with it. If I admit it, then I have to accept it, then I'm going to do it. So you cut off your perspective. And now you project, because it's going to be that cycle. That's why they say once you're an addict, you're always an addict. It's because you're stuck within a cycle of existing. You've only understood existing within that space. And that becomes that key whenever you're going into the aspect of you understanding your projections. I want to project myself to be better. I want to project myself to be stronger. I just want you to be fucking great. I want you to be the fucking best. In the description of the readings, this Friday we are getting into the aspects of In the aspects, we're getting into the labyrinth, the mechanical labyrinth of the mind. When I think about the labyrinth of the mind, there's 4 access points into it. Is your the things that you put into these 4 points are your compass. How you make your money, your family, your friends, social life, private life, all of these aspects. You have created this labyrinth. Think about being a kid, being told to go stand in a corner, and think about what you've done. Take that thought into your mind. So you sat in that corner, you thought about what you've done. So everything you've ever thought about what you've done based on bad, based on the negative, is now in that corner. From that corner, you created the box. From that box, you created the other walls and the linear points to that space. That's the Minotaur, is the aspect of your intellectual, or your intellectual ceiling or intellectual floor, and the aspect of your animalistic side or your behavior, mentalities and behavior, intellect. That's what is being protected. That's what protects that entire realm of how you don't grow and how you don't move to the next level. And that's what we're getting into this Friday in the labyrinth. Understanding that mental labyrinth of things that you've created that stop you from getting into what you need to get into. G.O.D Alchemist, that's a YouTube channel. I'll have that up a little bit later. Services such as readings, consultation, setting that consultation up with that shadow reading and that consultation. Book one today. You can hit me in the inbox. Build from there. You can hit me for the readings. I just want you to be fucking great. I want you to be fucking awesome. I want you to use this day, the day of 10. How are you going to shape yourself for the next reflection of this day? Because remember, today is the only day that matters. You are the only one that matters. From this point, from this crosshairs, is your levels of either you're going to be rising in your understanding or you're going to be existing in repeating. I love you. We love us. Ashe.